HRN listeners. As we celebrate our 15th year, we are deepening our commitment to giving voice to the next generation of food systems storytellers, and we need your help. Our internship and fellowship programs help activate new possibilities for underrepresented and underestimated young people through experiential journalism, audio engineering, and production training. Through these unique programs, HRN helps food equity stewards build essential workforce readiness skills that expand their potential and foster economic mobility. Please consider supporting these critical programs. And with a minimum donation, you can be entered to win a dinner for two at an amazing restaurant in one of 8 cities and tickets to a concert at a great venue in one of those cities. We have incredible partners across the country who have donated, as they also share our passion for helping to educate the next generation of food systems storytellers. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. And make sure you donate before March 31st. Thank you.
The Heritage End of Year Fund Drive is officially on. Become a member today at heritageradionetwork.org/donate.
This episode of The Grape Nation is brought to you by Joule Sous Vide by Chef Steps. Joule takes the guesswork out of cooking. Learn more at chefsteps.com/JOULE. Welcome to the Grape Nation, your weekly wine journey. Our guest is Gaelle Goossens from Champagne Veuve Clicquot. We'll talk to Gaelle about wine, women in wine, champagne, and we'll talk about Veuve Clicquot. We'll taste the Veuve Clicquot 200th Anniversary Rosé for our weekly wine sip. I'm your host, Sam Ben-Ruby. Stay with us for the Grape Nation on the Heritage Radio Network. We bring wine to the people. Gaelle Goossens was born in Reims, France. Did I get that right? And grew up in the countryside of Champagne. She studied abroad, but was drawn back to her Champagne roots, eventually getting a postgraduate degree in biochemistry and a national diploma in enology. She spent 5 years at Champagne House Bollinger. Gaelle joined Veuve Clicquot in 2016 in development, innovation, and communication of enology, responsible for winemaking, communication, pressing, and vinification. Welcome to the show, Gaelle.
Well, thank you for hosting me.
Did I get that right, your title and all of that?
Yes, really right.
It could be, I may have to give you an award at the end of the show. It could be the longest title that anybody has.
Oh, really?
Yeah. All right, so I do this with all my guests, and I want you to do it quickly, but quickly in a good way. I want you to give us a background on your journey and life in wine and champagne that got you to where you are today, which is a few years at Veuve. So just take me on that trip quickly.
Yeah, well, actually, it was not my first choice. You know, I always say it's not something that you want to do, like be a winemaker when you're 12.
Right.
So after high school, I left France. I went to Australia. I studied a bit over there, but I studied international relations. And I got a job in France that I did not really like it. It was too much paper job, too much hours.
In business?
Not in business. It was more in international relations,
Okay.
so in administration, actually. So
An office job?
Yes, an
Okay.
office job. And it was just not for me. So I quit and I went back to school and I did that degree of 5 years. And then I discovered the world of wine and the winemaking process.
During the 5 years of graduate work?
Yes. Yes. Well, I just realized that being a winemaker, you could be a scientific, but also an artist, you know, and I don't think I'm an entire and 100% scientific. So I like being someday 75% scientific or 25% artist, and some other day I'm just 100% artistic. I like this balance in the work.
Right. So your approach is a mixture of all those things.
Yes.
So when did the rubber hit the road? When did you start really working in wine and champagne at any level? What was the entry?
I was born and I grew up in the Champagne region, so
Right.
it was my surrounding, but I never realized that could be a real job to be in the wine industry. And the thing is, I think I have that wine education at home. I had a wine
Just
education.
by being there.
That just by being there. And I had also a grandmother. She was a grape grower. She spent a lot of time in the vineyard, and I spent a lot of time with her. I've always done the harvest in Champagne. And
As growing up
yes.
with your
yes,
grandmother?
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
so it's
So
really
some-
in your blood.
Yes, it was in my blood.
you
and
left it.
Yes, I left it. I think it was in 2006, just before quitting my job. I just realized that it's actually my passion and it's actually my surrounding, but it could also be my job, my real job.
Right.
And that's where the link.
So you
started.
studied, like you said, for 5 years, enology
Yes.
and
Well,
all that.
actually, yes.
You get out, and where did you go to work when you?
When I left the School of Enology,
Yeah.
well, I started with Boulanger, the
Okay,
house.
so that was
was
your-
my first
And you spent a lot of years there, right?
5 years.
Right.
Yes.
And tell me the type of stuff you did there.
I was working in the winery. I was the second in production, so I mean that I was I worked all my days in wineries
Right.
making wine, and also in the laboratory or quality aspect, everything you can do as a winemaker.
All the things that
blend,
interested you.
Yes.
The winemaking
yes,
and the
yes,
science. So after about 5 years,
Yes.
that comes to an end, and you have an opportunity to go to
Yes.
Veuve,
Yes.
and that was in 2016.
Yes.
So let's just talk about, I have this question somewhere, but we could talk about it now. Tell me about your title and your responsibilities.
Today? Yes.
You are a winemaker, but you do other things. Tell me quickly.
Well, I'm responsible for the pressing center and a winery in the Côte des Blancs in Vertu, where you find the Chardonnay.
Right.
And the rest of the year, I'm also responsible for development and innovation projects and also communication. So it means that I can work on a new cuvée, or I can work on one of our process, checking if everything is fine, or just improving the quality of something that we've always done. Or I do some communication as well, and communication is a big word, but actually
Right.
what we do is to travel around and to meet people, and especially the trade and the clients,
Right.
just to train them about our wines and to tell, to meet people, because meeting people and knowing what they think about our wine is really important.
I
And
think
our
that's
spirit.
important.
Yes.
And if you're close to the winemaking and you're close to the market, you get a very good sense. Just tell me one thing. You worked at a Chardonnay facility, so that indicates
Yes.
Veuve has multiple locations where they're pressing.
Yes,
About how many?
We have actually 6 pressing
Jeez.
centers spread over the region, because in Champagne, you have to press as quickly as you can when you harvest your grape, because we make a white wine from red grapes. And the thing is, the quality comes from the grapes, and you have to be really careful at that stage of the process. And we have 2 wineries in the region and 2 in Reims, and I'm in one of them outside
Did you say Reims?
Yes, sorry.
Okay. If you could say it, I could say it.
You can say Reims.
People forget, and we're big champagne advocates on this show, that champagne is wine. And
Champagne
the
is
quality
wine.
of the champagne is, how it's farmed and the grapes and how it's made and all that. All right, so that's Gaelle. Now I want to talk about the namesake of the company, which is very cool. Madame Clicquot has quite the history. Entrepreneur, champagne maker. She certainly was a personality in her day, and a woman, which was kind of unusual. You're embarking on your 200th anniversary of the rosé.
Mm-hmm.
Just give me a quick history of Veuve, or talk about, Madame Clicquot, who's really, what the company is about.
Well, Madame Clicquot was this great woman. She took the business over in 1805 and she was only 27. So she became that businesswoman at the age of 27 in 1805.
How did it come to her? Family, husband? I mean, what?
She became she took the business over because her husband died, actually. So,
Fell in her
Veuve means
lap.
the widow in
Right.
English. Well, in French,
Right.
up to you.
The widow Clicquot.
Yes, unfortunately, she lost her husband. She took over the business. She was young. She was a woman. You know, at that time in France, you couldn't, if you were a woman, you could not open a bank account by yourself and even get an ID card by yourself. It was not possible. So it was hard. It was a hard
She
time.
persevered, though. She
Yes,
was quite the
well,
personality,
I'm sure
right?
she was a tough woman.
Right.
Yes.
But she also innovated stuff
Yes.
in Champagne. Tell me
Yes.
some of the things that
Yes.
she did early on. Some
Yeah,
cool
so
stuff.
She was a businesswoman,
Right.
obviously, but she was also a creative and a kind of artistic. She dared a lot, and she created three of the main innovations that we still have and still use
Tell me
today
what they are.
in Champagne. Well, first, the rosé. We were talking about the 200th anniversary, where in 1618 she created the rosé. The first rosé by blending a white wine and a red wine in Champagne. Before that method, we used to put elderberry mixture in our wine.
Just for the color and flavor.
Just for the color. So adding red wine instead of elderberries, you improve the quality because with elderberries you had the color but not the quality. It was not real.
So she's credited with rosé how we know it today.
Yes.
All right, so that's one innovation.
Yes, that's the latest actually in 1818,
Okay.
and in 1816 she invented the riddling process and the riddling table.
Quickly tell everyone
Yes.
what riddling is
So-
and why it's important.
You know, in Champagne, we do a second fermentation in bottle. It's how we
Right.
get the bubbles in our wines. And to get these bubbles, the fermentation, we add yeast and sugar in our bottle. So when you add yeast and sugar, you add sediments because you have sediments in the bottle. And before Madame Clicquot, people used to drink cloudy wine with the sediments. They could decant the wine, but they mainly drink the sediments with the wine. So Madame Clicquot, one day she tried to dig a hole in a kitchen table, and she put the bottle neck down. Well,
On an angle, neck
down. In the table, and every day she tilted the bottle to the right and to the left, while the neck of the bottle got neck down, and she could actually collect all the sediments into the neck of the bottle. And once you open the bottle, you expulse all the sediments. So that's improved a lot.
Be a nice clear
Yes,
wine
crystal
with no
clear.
sediment.
Yes.
Sediment. So riddling, rosé. Give me the
And
third one.
first-
Pretty impressive.
Yes, first vintage of champagne. Before, back to the time, people learned by blending different harvests. They could improve the quality of the wine. They could improve the quantity of the wine as well. Because weather in Champagne, it's still a hard weather, cold weather. We now improve the techniques, so we have more yield. But before, it was really hard. And one day in 1810, the harvest was really great, and she just decided to do something with just this single harvest and make the first vintage of champagne, called vintage of champagne.
Right.
Yes.
Right. So that's sort of a big deal because that's going on now. I want to get to that in a second, but before, she was truly one of the first women not in champagne,
Yes.
but in wine. Give me your assessment of where you think women in wine are today. Are they getting their proper due? Are they treated equally? Are they?
It's getting better.
So it's
things
not
are changing.
So that answer means it's not there, but it's getting
It's
better.
not there, but we're working on it.
Right. I
And
mean,
it's getting better.
you're in the middle
Yes.
of the storm, so that's why I'm asking.
Yes, there is no difference today. If you want to be a winemaker, you can be a winemaker as a woman. There's no difference.
Right.
But the thing we still see is the really few women in the top management of company or with a lot of responsibilities. That's still hard. But I think it's the same a
So
bit everywhere. So.
That's a good point, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a specific answer. My curiosity is, are there enough women for those positions, and the industry still feels more comfortable giving it to a male, or there's not enough women? I mean,
I think there are enough women right now.
so they're still passing by
Yes.
women that are qualified.
Yeah.
So we need to get better at that.
Yes.
Do you see a difference in Europe and the United States, or basically it's this generally?
No, I can see a difference, especially because I travel a lot, and you have a great quality here in the US if you don't judge people by who they are.
So it's a little slower back home.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So listen, as long as things are getting better and people like you lead the way, that's a good thing. As far as champagne, and you were talking about it a little, is it fair to say that in the last 5, 10, 15 years, the champagne industry has gone through a transformation as far as grower champagne, new people? I mean, do you agree with that?
I think we are I don't know how to say that, experimenting a change, but more in terms of practice in our vineyards. You know,
More attention to the
Yes,
farming in the vineyards.
to the vineyard.
There was less of that further back.
Yes, and we are changing our practice. You know, we've been sustainable at Veuve Clicquot since 2014, but it took us more than 10 years to change. And if you go to Champagne, you know, if you walk through the vineyard, you now see grass into the vineyard, and it's something
Right.
that did not exist before. We are
Right.
really focusing on our ecosystem. We are improving our practice, using less and less chemicals, less and less herbicide. And this is the big change, I think, in Champagne.
So, like you said, Veuve embraced environmental engagement.
Yes.
And what'd you say, in 14, you got to where you wanted to be or close to it?
I think we believe that it's the future of Champagne.
Right.
Being more responsible, more eco-friendly.
Friendly.
And this is the path we've undertook
Do you-
15 years ago, and we'll continue. Like
When you look around, there's small, medium, and large champagne growers. Are
Yes.
a lot of people not practicing sustainability? They're just
Not yet.
not yet.
Not yet.
So there's still enough. There still are enough people that are not doing it. So the
that's-
upside is that
yes,
could change.
yes. But that's the future of our region, so we have to.
Is it that
work
much
on it.
harder for a bigger champagne house? It takes time.
It takes
to-
time for everyone. I think, you know, when you change something in your vineyard, you change the ecosystem. So it takes time. You cannot decide in one day to change everything. You need to keep the balance. You need to keep the
Right.
ecosystem, and you need to know that if you change something in the vineyard, that will not change the style of your wine as well. So it's a lot of change, and we don't know everything today.
So
And
you
we-
have not achieved your ultimate
No, we-
ecological. It's an ongoing thing, and there are
Yes,
more good
we
things
will
you could
always
do.
work on that
But
and
you-
improve our
You're of that
practices.
mindset and direction
Yes.
and all of that.
Yes.
What's your take on grower champagne? Is there more of it? Have you seen more of that in the last 5, 10 years than you've seen?
Of course, yes, of course. Everyone is changing more or less quickly.
Right.
But I think if you don't do that, it will be difficult for you in few years. So
Right.
it's something that everyone understands. And, you know, we with the new generation, especially with growers, we see new generation coming, and they try new practices as well. And they are more, maybe more eco-friendly as
Right.
well. But not everyone do it. But we believe in that, so we want to do it, and we want to continue to do that. And
that's
we
a good thing.
encourage
Right.
as well our producers and our growers to walk
That's a
in the
good thing.
same
I'm glad
path.
to hear that.
Yes.
Let's talk about Veuve Clicquot a little. Let's talk about wine growing and winemaking. The winery, the Champagne House, has upwards of 1,000 acres or 360, 70 hectares of your own property. Do you contract grapes beyond those?
Yes. Yes.
Because you bottle.
Yes, we have 400 hectares of vineyard,
Right.
but we do not supply our own needs. So we need to buy grapes to growers, and it's something that we were talking about sustainability, and you would say, okay, you are sustainable, but what about the growers that
Right.
supplies you? And we actually settled a few years ago We settled in 2009 an entire department with 5 people, full-time technician and engineer, and they worked with the growers. It's only long-term contract, and they worked with the growers every day to make them become as well sustainable. So we help them
agree for the end farmed product.
Because it's difficult. We know it's difficult to become sustainable. It's difficult. You need help. You cannot do that from one day.
Overnight.
Yes. And so
ultimately, they're your grapes, so you want to get to where you want to be.
Yes.
Otherwise, you move on. So you plant Chardonnay, Pinot Meunier, anything beyond that?
No, Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Meunier.
And
principally, yes.
Would you say, is there a Veuve Clicquot house style? Is there, I don't want to say taste, but a style
You
that you
talk
attain
about
or
style.
achieve every year? Some consistency in that?
Yes. We are Pinot Noir style. So we like the Pinot Noir. It's our
So
DNA.
Pinot Noir is a love and a
Yes.
predominant grape in the champagne.
It's what we like with Pinot Noir that gives you the structure of the wine, this full body wine, this gastronomic wines. We are gastronomic wine. We produce wine for gastronomy, and we like to drink and to taste champagne and to produce champagne with a full body style.
Right.
Yes.
And the Pinot Noir and the Meunier help with that, right?
Yes, especially the Pinot Noir.
So does that mean in the majority of the bottlings, and I know you have 6, 7, 8, 9 different, a bunch of them are heavy Pinot Noir,
Yes.
and because of this.
Well,
So
yes.
the question I asked you was house style. You answered it. You make this full-bodied,
Wine,
the Pinot
yes.
Noir. Fair to say that, right?
Yes.
Great. So tell me, there are multiple bottlings, right? You make the non-vintage. Walk me through quickly, what's out there, and let's talk about each one.
We have non-vintages. So we have the yellow label. You may all know.
That's
because-
iconic. You see that everywhere.
That's iconic, as you
Right.
say. And we have the non-vintage rosé as well. So we use the same blend of the yellow label, but we add some red wine that we
Okay.
produce in our house. And then we have 2 different vintages. One is called The Vintage, and the other is called La Grande Dame, which is our premium cuvée.
Right.
And
La Grande Dame is a vintage champagne.
Yes.
But it's La Grande Dame, and then the other is just
Called the Vintage. Yes.
Right. So it's by the year. Do you have a demi-sec?
We have a demi-sec as
Tell
well.
people quickly what a demi-sec is.
Demi-sec is a non-vintage as well, but we add more sugar at the end of the process into the bottle. We choose the amount of sugar we want to have in champagne. It's called the dosage, and dosage it's a bit higher with the demi-sec.
Right.
So
it's a sweeter wine.
It's a sweeter wine. Yes.
What do people drink demi-sec with? Dessert? Cheese?
Yes, cheese is a good idea, and it's
the end of a meal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cheese, hot
Instead
cheese,
of a dessert
and
wine,
dessert as well.
you can get a sparkling dessert wine. We're talking to Gaelle Goossens. Gaelle is the winemaker at Veuve Clicquot. Gaelle, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to ask you a few more questions. Then I want to subject you to our wine list, the special champagne edition. So you have to answer each question twice, one with a wine answer and one with a champagne answer. And then after that, we're going to talk about and crack the 200th anniversary rosé from Veuve Clicquot. You're listening to The Grape Nation. We'll be right back.
For the past 10 years, Heritage Radio Network has brought listeners around the world the most important voices in food and drink. I'm Matt Patterson, the lead engineer here at HRN. 6 years ago, when I was teaching myself to brew beer out in San Diego, I listened to Heritage Radio shows for tips, tricks, and inspiration. Heritage Radio's programming simply would not be possible without the support of listeners like you. Become a member of Heritage Radio Network today and give HRN a strong start to our second decade. Choose from exclusive member gifts and stay in the loop on discounts to upcoming events. Now is the best time to show your support for HRN. Go to heritageradionetwork.org/donate.
The holidays are coming up, and you can host the most delicious dinner and wine parties this season with Jewel. When you cook with Jewel, there's zero guesswork. So steak, chicken, seafood, eggs, and your holiday roasts come out exactly the way you like them. Now you have a little extra time to taste test your wine and food pairing course by course. And cooking with Jewel is hands-free, so you can focus on your guests, perfect your recipes, and making sure you have enough wine to serve with your great food, while Jewel does all the work. From perfect steak to tender flavor-packed holiday hams, roasts, and fish, Jewel makes the best food you've ever tasted. Just be sure to save room for dessert and a little more wine. Jewel, perfect food every time. To get yours, visit chefsteps.com/JOULE. That's chefsteps.com/JOULE and use code HRN to get 15 off for a limited time. That's chefstep.com/Jewel, code HRN for $15 off. All right, we're back. We're back with my guest, Gaelle Goossens. Gaelle is from Veuve Clicquot. She is the winemaker, among many other things that she does. Gaelle, tell me, I guess when harvest comes around, things get crazy. Just give me a snapshot. Now when you get into action, you're winemaking, now you're out in the field, you're in the...
Well, it starts a bit before the harvest.
Of course.
We do, we taste the grapes at Veuve Clicquot. It's been that during 2 or 3 weeks before the harvest, we go to the vineyard twice a week, and we taste the grapes to be able to know how's the grapes, are they, what is the maturity at that time of the year, and
so you're tasting until this is
it. Yes, and we can decide which plot, which vineyard is ready to be harvested.
Right, when to pick.
Yes.
So there's different pickings and all of that.
So it starts 2-3 weeks before the harvest.
Right.
And once the appellation open the harvest, in Champagne, there's a specific day where you can harvest the grapes. It's not you cannot decide really when you want to start. You can you need to wait for the region, the appellation, to say, okay, now you can harvest this part of the region. Each village has its own.
So let me ask
date.
you a silly question. If you're out there weeks before and you feel the grapes are ready and they tell you not to harvest
that's
yet.
the difficult part.
So that happens sometimes.
Yes, it
There's
happens
a
sometimes.
Okay.
Yes.
God, that's crazy. All right. Now, what's the biggest concern when you're tasting grapes? Sugar levels, ripeness?
Ripeness, it's sugar level and acidity. It's more about the balance of the fruits.
Right. When the
Champagne
balance
is all about
right.
balance. Yes.
It may need another week,
Yes.
2 weeks, or it's ready right then and there. Then the grapes are picked.
Grapes are picked, and it's a really stressful moment. In Champagne, we have this cold climate, not every day so easy, and an heavy rain can ruin your harvest, can bring some rot, and so that's really difficult. You have to be quick in
You're
Champagne.
subject to nature.
Yes. Well, we
Quick
work
to
with,
get the grapes off the vine.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Okay.
We harvest by hand really quickly, and we press quickly as well, because the quality of the wine comes from the quality of the grapes, and you cannot wait too long. So we press as quickly as we can the grapes. We get the juice, the must, and then we do the fermentations, the first alcoholic fermentation on our must, and got the wines, the still wines after that.
Right. Now, when you say you pick and you try to crush, we're talking same day, that night, next day, right?
No, that's the same day.
It doesn't sit much longer.
Yes. No, it's probably like 2 hours after harvesting.
Is that a little stressful? Or
It is
what?
stressful. It is stressful.
I would imagine.
It is. Yes.
So you're basically at the point where you're making wine. You think champagne, but first, like you said, you're making a still wine.
Yes.
So the grapes are picked, they're vinted. Then you said they're in barrel? Or tanks?
We use stainless steel vats mainly, but we have also a park of wood barrels.
Okay.
And
how long are they left in the vats as a still wine?
Well, it depends if we have to use them or not.
Right.
We wait for the fermentations.
Which takes how long?
The fermentation will last 10 days. Alcoholic fermentation is quite quick, so after
Okay.
10 days it's over. But we do also the malolactic fermentation, which lasts a bit
Explain what
longer.
malolactic fermentation
Malolactic fermentation, it's actually not a real fermentation. It's more a transformation of the malic acid, which is a really strong acid. Like it's the acidity of the green apple, for
Right.
example. So you transform the malic acid into the lactic acid. So the lactic acid it's a bit more round and soft. So it's the acidity of the
Right.
yogurt, for example.
Right. And that gives it the style that you want.
Yes, so that it lasts a couple of weeks.
So the fermentation takes about 10 days or so. Is the wine moved out of the stainless steel, or it could sit there until
No, we wait.
You do wait.
Yes, no, we wait for the end of the fermentations. We don't move the wine before.
Right.
Anyway, you
So
cannot.
fermentation
You cannot.
and
Yes.
holding, storing, keeping the wine
Yes.
until you're ready.
Yes.
Stays
Yes.
in one place. Then what happens? You go to your first fermentation after that?
Well, we wait.
Not fermentation. Well, yeah.
Malolactic fermentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called a fermentation. So we wait until the end of the malolactic fermentation, and then we will start tasting with the oenology team. So we are actually 11 winemakers at
Right.
Veuve, and we all gather during that period together every day at the same hour at 11 o'clock during
Really?
several months. It can last 3 or 4 months. You know, we from a single harvest we collect between 600 and 700 different wines.
Wow.
So it's a lot. And plus, we taste also all the reserve wines, between 400 and 500 wines.
To
So it's a lot.
decide
To decide
what you
yes.
need to add to certain. It varies by vintage.
It's more to decide what is this wine. Is it a wine that we will use for the non-vintage this year, or is it a wine that we can put in reserve
Right.
or use to make a vintage?
You must have reserves back to how far?
The oldest reserve wine we still have is 1988.
Wow. So you'll figure out when and why you want to use that.
Yes.
All right. So now there comes a second fermentation.
Yes. So we do what? So we taste every single wine that we have.
We talked about the blending
Yes.
process.
And then we
The taste-
blend.
Right.
We blend our wines and we will bottle our wine. And once we bottle our wine, we add the yeast and sugar to make the second alcoholic fermentation.
And that's when the wine is in cellars.
Yes.
Neck down, riddling.
Well, we lay our bottles.
You do?
Yes, we lay the bottle in cellars. And once we want to release the bottle, we would take the bottle and do the riddling process. But during all those years, because we wait 3 years before releasing a non-vintage, between 7 and 10 for a vintage, and even more than 10 minimum for a Grand Dame. During all those years, the bottles are laid on our cellars.
So the non-vintage Veuve Clicquot is laying down for 3 years
Yes.
before.
Yes.
And then when you are ready to move the wine, you rack it. And how long is that process? Just to get the sediment out, the riddling?
It's quick. It can
It
be
is?
1 week. Riddling
So
process
it's a
lasts
fast
1
process.
week. Yes.
Once the wine is on
Yes.
an angle, the sediment
Yes.
settles, you riddle it a little.
Yes.
Then what? What's the final thing?
Well, we do the riddling process. We disgorge a wine.
Tell us what disgorgement
What
is.
disgorgement? Once you've got the sediment collected in the neck of the bottle, you have to open the bottle, and when you open the bottle, you expulse all those sediments out of the bottle, and that what
It literally blows out, right?
yes, it's what we call the
How is
disgorgement.
the bottle sealed? Is it with a cork? Is it with a cap?
It's actually a cap for a non-vintage because we
Right.
consider that under 10 years of aging, there's no difference between a cork and a cap. And cork can bring you a lot of default in your wine, like cork taste.
Right. Go back for a second to the winemaking process when you're blending. You mentioned dosage, which is the addition of sugar. As you're tasting the wines and you're blending, you determine what you're going to do sugar-wise. But don't certain wines have a set amount or close as far as dosage? Like you won't add much more to a particular champagne, or it varies?
It varies depending on the cuvée.
Okay.
You know, because we do the second alcoholic fermentation in bottle, every single wine we have has no sugar left at the end. After the disgorgement, there is no sugar left in the champagne, in the wine. So
is that typical of
Yes,
all
it's-
champagnes
yes,
made?
yes.
The
Yes.
sugar's expended. It's
Yes,
gone.
because the yeast you add
Right.
to make the second alcoholic fermentation, consume all the sugar in your wine. So you don't have any more sugar in your wine. So if you want to find some sugar at the end in the champagne, it's only the sugar that you can add
Right.
with the dosage. So we choose how what will be the dosage, how much we can add in the different wine. So the non-vintage is a bit you have a bit more sugar in it. It's used to be 10 grams. It's now 9 grams of sugar per liter. And for the vintage and the Grand Dame, it's 8 grams of
right.
sugar.
Little drier.
Yes, it's
I
a
guess.
little drier.
So moving forward again. So now you've disgorged the wines.
Mm-hmm.
You cork them.
Yes, so we add dosage and then we
Dosage.
cork.
That's when you
Yes,
add dosage
yes,
after
just
the
after
disgorgement.
yes.
Okay. And then the wine is sealed with a cork.
Yes.
And is it ready to go, or now it?
We wait. Well, when I say 3 years, we actually wait 2.5 years in cellar on lees, and then we wait 6 months more
In the
after
bottle?
Disgorgement, because
Got you.
it's the time you need to balance the wine. You know,
Right.
you add sugar, so you unbalance a bit the.
It gets
the
some
wine.
bottle age.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then
And then it's ready to be drunk.
ready to go. There it is in a 10-minute or less snapshot. Gaelle told you how champagne is made. All right, Gaelle, we're going to move on to our weekly wine list. I want to ask you a bunch of questions. Buzz through these. Don't be shy. I'm curious on your take on a bunch of things. So the first question we ask everybody, and remember, there's 2 answers. I'm interested in what you drink wine-wise, and I'm interested in champagne. So what are you drinking now? What are you trying, tasting, testing in the wine world? Is it seasonal, or is something interesting you?
I'm not a seasonal person in terms of drinking wine.
You drink
but
the
I'm
same stuff.
Not the same stuff. Depend on my mood, I guess. It's like when you listen to music. Depend on the day and your mood.
So what's your
you can
mood now, and what are you drinking?
I have these chains. My husband has a wine bar, so he can taste and try a lot of different wines. And I'm a big red wine lover, and I like red wine. But sometimes I also drink white wines. So,
What reds are you liking now?
my favorite is the Côte Rôtie in
Okay.
France, and I'm a big fan of Côte Rôtie. And I like Shiraz in general because I like the spices that you find in the Shiraz. And I like the Shiraz because everywhere it grows, the taste of Shiraz, you find those spices always
I agree.
in every country you grow Shiraz. But depending on the terroir, you can have really different profile of Shiraz, and I think it's an interesting.
Do you have a
approach.
favorite? Chardonnay or someone else?
Well, I like
That's
the
pretty good,
Chardonnay.
right? But what else? Give me another one.
Well, I'd like one day to taste La Turque,
Okay.
and it's but I
The
need to
Lalas.
save a bit of money first.
Yeah.
But
La
it would be-
Landon, La Turque, La
Yes,
Moline. Those
yes,
are all terrific
yes,
Côte
yeah.
Rôties. All right. What are you drinking champagne-wise? Are there things you're tasting for work or...
I really like old vintages. I'm a big fan of old champagne.
okay.
I know that some people still think that a champagne cannot be aged in your own cellar after disgorgement, but it's so wrong. You can really
Tell people
enjoy-
that
Yes.
a good vintage year could be laid down for many years.
Yes, well, for vintage, we have vintage and Grand Dame. If you take the vintage, you can wait 25, 30 years.
Sure.
It's okay.
I mean, if you go on Instagram, you see sommeliers
Yes.
popping bottles from the 80s, 70s.
Well, with this carbon dioxide that we have, the bubbles keeps you,
Right.
helps the champagne
Right.
to age better.
All right. So vintage champagne,
Mm-hmm.
Côte Rôtie, good ones. All right. Let's talk about your favorite wine and food pairing and your favorite wine and favorite champagne and food pairing. So is there a wine and food pairing that you eat more times than other things?
I like to try uncommon food pairing. I like to,
All right. So
to
give me
push
your
my-
last best one.
I like, last time, and we do that at Veuve Clicquot, we taste old vintages again, old
Okay.
champagne vintages with different maturation of cheese.
Okay.
And it's good to try and to try to not stop. You can do it, but change from red wine to champagne when you have some cheese. And I'm French, so I'm a big cheese lover.
So
as well,
is there a particular cheese? Is it Comté or is
yes.
it?
Well, what's really great with Comté is you can find quite easily different age of Comté. And you can
Right.
You can
You could taste the
play,
8-month and you could taste the 3-year.
Yes, you can
So you
play with
match-
that
right.
and play with different age of champagne as well.
So that works well with
Yes.
wine and champagne.
Yes.
So we'll put that.
And I like the red meat on rosé champagne. It's something that you probably not do, but I like the other time I tried the Wagyu steak on La Grande Dame rosé, and it was really great. With rosé champagne, you have more tannins, you have more
I agree.
structure, you have more Pinot Noir style, so that goes really well with red meat and roast even roast chicken, roast lamb.
It holds up to
Yes,
that.
Yes.
There's the similar argument with still rosé wine that it's just not a summer light wine.
No, it's really
There are
wine.
different levels and all of that. All right. Do you have a favorite wine restaurant and/or bar? So let's say by home or in Paris. Is there a place that just does such a good job with? So answer it twice. With wine, that when you go there, the service, the selection, the environment, and a place. Same with champagne, vintages, cool stuff,
So you mean here?
anywhere.
Anywhere?
Because you're global. Usually it's New Yorkers with New York answers. Give me a
So I
great wine
don't
bar
know a
and a
lot.
great champagne bar. Then home.
I don't know a lot about New York, so I can talk about France. And Paris, what would it be? Paris, I like the Comptoir.
Okay.
So it's a restaurant, and you have the Avant Comptoir, which is a bar next to the restaurant,
Right.
and it's from Comte de Bourg. He is a famous chef in France, but he has a really great wine list. And
So great food, great wine.
yes,
They
and
pay
it's
attention
open
to the
all
wine.
day long, so you can. Well, if I give you an advice, don't get there during lunch or dinner, but be between.
In between.
Yes, because you get more chance to get a
That
table.
works in a lot of
Yes.
places. What about any place that does the same with champagne, has a great selection of champagne, goes out of their way?
Well, I think you have to go to Champagne to drink a lot of champagne. And a good restaurant, I would say Les Crières in Reims,
Okay.
because it's a free 2 stars Michelin restaurant, so you always get good food, qualitative food, and
you
they have
to
an
match
amazing.
it with a good
Yes,
list.
I think they have every single champagne that you can find in Champagne.
Really?
Yes, you can try everything.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
Tough feat. What about, let's give your husband a plug. You said he has a wine bar.
Yes.
Where is that?
It's in Reims. It's called
Okay.
Le Clos, and it's
Say that again?
Le Clos.
Okay.
A clos mean a plot in Champagne where you have walls around.
Oh, yeah, like
a
Clos Menzel, right.
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
exactly. So it's Le Clos, and you have
It's a cute name.
of. Well, you have a really big champagne list as well, and it's a patio outside. Heated,
Nice.
so
Sounds
it's
great.
nice. Yes.
How long has he had Le Clos?
The 5 years.
Oh, so
it's a
you-
good place for lifestyle.
Nice.
Lifestyle life. Yes.
All right. 2 more questions. Do you have a favorite all-time wine? Would that be one of the Côte Rôties?
It could be one of the
Probably.
country. Yes.
What about a champagne? I would guess it's a vintage champagne.
No, I would say it's a cave privé. Well, if I could drink cave privé every day, I would. I don't know if you know that wine. It's actually, Veuve, we have vintage, and sometimes when we know that this vintage has a really great potential, we just stop selling it and we keep it for more time in our cellar, like 20, 30 more years.
As a
And-
champagne or a still wine?
No, as a champagne.
As a champagne.
And we release this vintage as cave privé 20
So
years
that's
later.
the rare of the rare
Yes.
from Veuve.
Yes, and there is a Cave Privé 89. This is gorgeous. You have
I
all
would
those
imagine.
spices notes, the mocha note, the coffee notes. This is great.
I'm guessing it's hard to find and it's expensive.
Yes, well, it's rare.
Yeah.
But you can. I'm sure you can find
Okay.
the Cave Privé in the US.
All right, last question. How do you get to the best value for champagne? Is it the non-vintage Veuve Clicquot? I mean, do you feel the biggest bang for the buck is a champagne like that?
And good value,
Yeah.
I would bet on the vintage because you already have the vintage, so the 10 years of aging. You have those complexity that comes from the aging in champagne. It's more complex. It's more developed. It's richer.
But
deeper.
aren't I paying twice as much for that?
Maybe, but compared to a top of tête de cuvée, it's less expensive.
So you're saying to get a vintage champagne, get the vintage champagne, pay a little more,
Yes.
and yours has a good value because of
Yes.
the quality and all.
And you can keep it. So
Yeah. All right, Gaelle, admirable job. Some great recommendations. We post all our recommendations on social media.
yes.
So we'll put them on Facebook and Instagram. All right, we're going to wrap up the show soon, but before we do that, we're going to taste a little wine. I asked Gaelle to bring in some wine, and appropriately, she brought in a bottle of Veuve Clicquot 200th Anniversary Rosé. We're going to taste this for our weekly wine sip. This is a limited edition wine.
Yes.
Tell me how it's packaged.
So we changed the top label, the what we call the collerette in French, and it's a black label, and we put a hidden message inside the label. So when you unwrap, when you unwrap the foil, you can see and read the message, and it's actually a message from Madame Clicquot.
Is everyone different, or it's the same message?
It's different messages.
Okay. I saw somewhere some funky packaging, like a birthday cake.
Yes.
Are all of them packaged that way, or some? That's a special edition?
That's the special edition.
All right, so let's talk about the champagne as a champagne and a wine. What can you tell me? Let's lift a glass. Christy, you don't have any. You have to take some. All right, so let's start with, and we'll talk about what goes into it. Let's start with the color first.
The color.
It's an extraordinarily deep salmon, beautiful color. And why is it that color?
It's something that we really want at Veuve. We are looking for that rosé, so that salmon and deep salmon color. And it's actually difficult to make.
Is that blend or skins or both?
It's blend.
It is blend.
It's blend. So we add 12% of red wine in our blend when we make the blend.
What
of the
kind
rosé.
of red wine?
It's only Pinot Noir red wine.
Okay.
Pinot Noir red wine, 12% into the blend
Got you.
of the brut.
Right.
And so we always focus on the color, but also the taste and the profile. And we like this. We like to keep the style of the non-vintage. We like the style of the yellow label, but we want those nuts of red fruits, fresh red fruits. Those we keep the crispiness, but all those berries, the strawberries, the raspberries. That's what we.
So let me ask you a silly question. I'm a novice, but I'm not a novice. Champagne is blended with Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier. So when you say you blend Pinot Noir in it, many other champagnes blend Pinot Noir, do not achieve this color. Why is it so dark again?
I think it's also the way we make our red wines.
Okay.
We use kind of a Burgundy method to make our red wine, and we can have a deep red wine.
So there's
at the
a style
beginning.
to that wine
Yes.
for blending.
Yes.
So it's okay.
Yes.
All right. So the color is gorgeous. Let's get our noses in it. Gaelle, tell us what we're smelling here.
Well, you're smelling a lot of red, fresh berries, like the strawberries, the
Red
raspberries,
fruits. Yep.
the red fruits. But also, as I said just before, you have those citrus notes that you can find in the yellow label, and you find them again in the non-vintage
Right,
rosé.
you carry that over
Yes,
to this.
but also those, pastry note, the brioche.
Right,
These,
the typical bready.
yes.
It's not too bready, though.
No.
I mean, it's there. It's not overwhelming. All right, now let's talk mouthfeel. The bubbles are very subtle. I'll tell you that. It's not underbubbled. It's not overbubbled. It's
Well, in Champagne in general, we have really small bubbles.
Yeah.
That's make the difference between Champagne and other
sparkling wines from other
yes.
regions, right? And these have beautiful small bubbles. All right, so mouthfeel. Tell me how you would describe it.
Same, because we use a lot of Pinot Noir. In mouth,
It's got a full body.
yes, you have the full
Mouth
body.
coating.
Yes, the structure, the texture.
Yeah.
And it's why we call that a gastronomic wine, because your mouth is full of texture, structure. You have this fineness, this fineness.
So that's your definition of a gastronomic wine.
Yes.
That fullness, that fineness,
Yes.
that mouth-filling
Well,
thing. and
it's
all.
complex, it's fine, but it's also rich and deep. And
Yes. All right, so now I need you to give me our palate descriptors, which I think would replicate some of the nose descriptors. But
you will
tell me,
find the berries, you will find the red fruits,
Yep.
and maybe even more tart fruits in mouth than those little fresh berries you had in nose.
there's a good tartness.
Yes.
What tart fruits would you describe?
Strawberry.
A
maybe.
tart or strawberry?
Yeah, strawberry.
So there's a
tart fruit.
sweet strawberry and a tart
Yes.
strawberry
But
in there.
still,
or
you
ripe.
have this freshness, those citrus nuts. That
Very
it is
much so.
refreshing.
Very much so. You discussed it a little before, but let's remind people again. What are some good foods to pair with this? So this isn't your typical champagne recommendation, because this is a rosé. You blend it with a red wine. It's got a fullness. So you said Wagyu beef.
I would go for a tuna tartare, for example.
Nice. It's got a good crispness
Yes.
for that. There's a
Yes.
little fattiness in the tuna.
Yes,
There's
exactly.
citrus in the tuna usually sometimes.
Yes, and some duck as well.
It would
Let's
hold up to the
be-
fattiness
yes.
of duck,
Let's try something new.
right?
Duck, and especially with maybe a sweet and sour sauce with the duck.
Right. Like an orange or
Yes, yes.
All right, give me one more.
And spicy food,
Spicy food will hold
Spicy
up?
food, yes.
Chinese food?
Chinese food.
It would be
Chinese
great
food.
with that.
Yes.
All right, so this champagne, is it available in the market now?
Yes.
And not to be exact, but the average retail is what, $65, $75?
Yes.
Somewhere in that range?
Yes.
Okay. It's a beautiful wine. We always tell people not to drink champagne as a celebratory thing. It pairs well with
Oh,
great
thank you for
wines.
that.
You've named 8 or 9 different foods that people wouldn't expect.
Yes.
We talk about champagne all the time. Our guests say it pairs with popcorn, pizza, fried chicken, fried foods.
Dare it.
The old oyster,
Yes.
thing is perfect in all of that. But, think of rosé as a richer wine and be adventurous in pairing it. So we like this wine a lot. You like this wine, Chrissy?
Love this wine.
All right. So that's the 200th anniversary Veuve Clicquot Rosé. And it is it a limited edition? Will it eventually go away?
It's a limited edition.
Okay.
We're celebrating 2018. So
And will it lay down for a few years?
the rosé non-vintage.
Yeah.
Well, you will find the rosé non-vintage after that, but not the limited edition.
Right. Drink it now. That's the
Yes.
best thing.
Yeah.
All right, Gaelle, we're going to wrap up the show. If you have a question, suggestion, wine happening, or event, hit me up at sam@thegrapenation.com. That's sam@thegrapenation.com. Follow us on Facebook at The Grape Nation. I will post Gaille's wine list answers. She's got some good recommendations. I'll post the wine that we sipped and some information on it. You can follow us on Instagram at sbenruby, and now you can follow hashtags. So follow hashtag The Grape Nation. At Twitter, we're at Ben Ruby. Gaelle, where could we find you, and where can we find Veuve Clicquot on social media?
Well, I have my, well, I'm not really...
Instagram account?
Yes, I have an Instagram account at Gaelle Goossens.
Gaelle.
Yes.
Any underscore dot or anything, or just...
Gaelle.
Right.
And my winemaker profile is Gaelle VCP, so it's
Okay.
even easier.
Okay.
You can find me on that.
And then Veuve Clicquot website. You
Oh,
could
if you-
Google
if-
Veuve
yes.
Clicquot.
Oh, yes,
It's
you
a
will
beautiful
find it.
website.
Yes, you can go
a
on the
lot of
website.
history and all of that. And I know Veuve Clicquot has Facebook and Instagram pages and all that stuff. So
And
if you
also
want,
some food pairing ideas on
Yes.
the website. Really interesting.
Lot of
and on
information.
Facebook as well.
a lot of good information on that. So that's where you can find Veuve and Gaelle. I want to thank my guest, Gaelle Goossens
Well, thank you.
from Veuve Clicquot, for coming and sitting with us. I want to thank our engineer, Vitor, and I want to thank everyone at the Heritage Radio Network. I'm Sam Ben Ruby, and you're listening to The Grape Nation.
Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content and to hear about exclusive events, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at heritage_radio. Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be a part of the food world's most innovative community? Rate the shows you like, tell your friends, and please join our community by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.